They won't be thinking about their Maseratis or their Lamborghinis or their jewels or their houses. What they'll be remembering are the moments of the greatest love and the moments of the greatest joy. Love and joy are twin sisters. And one of the greatest poets of the world, Rainer Maria Rilke, wrote at the end of his life, and I'm going to boast and flash my German, Nur im Raum der Rühmung darf die Klage gehen, Nymphe des geweinten Quells. I know all of you know immediately what that means, but I would love to translate it for you, and it's very, very profound. It means only in the hall of praise shall lamentation go. And what that means is that if you want to live a fully human, fully divine life, your deepest concentration should be on praising God, praising life, being at all moments, as far as you can, profoundly grateful just to be having this astounding, deranging, amazing experience that, if you're lucky, will flower in this lifetime into the ultimate experience of moksha, of liberation, of eternal freedom. When I was in Ladakh at 29 and met a man who was a Buddha, who was in his 80s, and who became my beloved and my teacher, Tukse Rinpoche, the first thing he said to me, he said, never forget that to be in a human body with the capacities that the human mind and human heart have is something that takes millions and millions of rebirths. Never forget, it is the greatest imaginable blessing, because it is only in a human body that you can achieve nirvana and liberation. My life is dedicated to joy. And I've dedicated my life, which has been full of tragedy and full of immense suffering and full of agony at what's happening to the human race and in the world. I've dedicated my life to joy for two reasons. I know now, as I will explain to you more richly, that the essence of the divine is not even truth, not even love, but joy, an unbelievable ecstatic joy, which when you begin to taste it, overwhelms you with an ecstasy that you never forget, and that you know is the reality of reality. And the other reason I have dedicated my life to joy is because very early on I learned from the poor in India that the way to survive life with all of its vicissitudes is to make a commitment to joy and train yourself to find in every moment the joy kernel, even the most terrible moments. This is now essential for every human being to understand viscerally, beyond reason, beyond the mind, in the depths of the heart and in the depths of the body. Because we are living in Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the most terrifying of all the yugas, because it is the yuga in which Kali dances her dance of destruction, and everything that we know and everything that we desire and everything that we are and everything that we cling to are systematically destroyed by this dance to reveal the essence of eternal reality. Many years ago, I was on one of my pilgrimages to Benaras, which is the ultimate home of my heart, and I hope and pray that it will become the ultimate home of your heart, because Benaras is Shiva's city, the city of joy, the city of an ecstasy beyond reason, that embraces and transcends all horror, death, agony, despair. They're all there in Benaras, but they're all suffused by the great joy, the mad joy of the madness of God. And through grace, I was taken to meet one of the great secret tantric gurus of India, a magnificent, wild old woman in her 90s. I came into her little house, bowed and touched her feet, and she sat for about 10 minutes in her chair, looking at me with the most penetrating gaze I have ever experienced. Looking at me, through me, in me. And then she started giggling. And she said, "Many terrible things have happened to you. Many terrible things will happen to you. But they will not defeat or destroy you, because you are a child of joy." And then I plucked up the courage to ask her about Kali Yuga, because I've come to believe that the Hindu understanding of this tragic, terrible evolutionary moment that we're in which everything is possible and everything is at stake at the same time, is by far the wisest and richest, in ways that I will unfold for you. I asked her, where are we in Kali Yuga? And she gave this wild, terrible laugh, the laugh of Kali herself. The first thing she said is something that all of you must be noticing, and it's very important to notice and understand. And that is, the time is now speeding up with a terrifying quantum intensity. More things happen in a year now than have happened in centuries before, technologically, spiritually, in terms both of possibility and of disaster. We are hurtling headlong towards a choice. between suicide or adoration. And everything will depend on our choice. The second thing she said is that there are 4 stages of Kali's dance. The first stage is the ominous stage, when you begin to hear the ringlets on her feet chinking in the lightning street night. The second stage is the dangerous stage, when that dance is becoming fiercer. The third stage is the severe stage, when the crises multiply explode. And the fourth stage is lethal, when everything is annihilated, to be remade in a new cycle that will unfold through all the yugas again. And then I asked her, where are we now? And this was 5 years ago. She said, the ominous stage came in the 1960s, when crazy wars were undergone, and when the first news of the destruction of the environment was coming, and we did nothing. So the second stage, the dangerous stage, then unfolded for 30 years. And what did we do? Instead of attending to our mother, nature, we went on an unbridled orgy of greed. An unbridled orgy of hubris, believing in our drunk madness that technology, our brilliant, amazing technology, could solve all problems, not realizing that the consciousness that had created that technology and was using that technology would make that technology also a source, not of liberation, but of disaster. So we were winding ourselves more and more in the burning shroud of our eventual potential death. That stage ended in the 90s, when the first great environmental conventions were held, and still we did nothing. Now we are in the last stages of the severe stage, and you are seeing already that uncontrollable crises of every kind, environmental, economic, spiritual, are starting to erupt everywhere. If we do not listen to what the United Nations Committee told us about the environment needing to be attended to within 10 years, which means a complete transformation of the way we live on every level, and if we do not listen to the World Wildlife Report that came out last year and said the insects are dying, the bees are dying, 1 million species are on the verge of extinction, if we do not undergo an unimaginably difficult transformation, we will soon go into the stage in which the annihilation of the human race and a great deal of nature will happen. And it will be our fault. It will be our fault. It will be the consequence of our madness, our pride, our dereliction of morality, our obscene addictions to power and greed. We will have brought that upon ourselves. It will be a lightning strike of karma on everything. And then she said, I will tell you a great secret, because you are mad in the right way. And you are a child of joy. I will tell you a great secret that is at the core of my tradition, which we have kept burning in the heart of Kali Yuga, waiting for the ones who are wild enough and holy enough and passionate enough and joyful enough to believe it and willing to do the work in joy to realize it. And this was the great secret she told me. She said there are two possible interpretations of the stage we are in and the last stage. The first is the orthodox, ancient, cyclical interpretation which I've given you, that it will end in a massive Holocaust, probably through fire, and there are many environmental experts who are saying, wringing their hands, that if the methane continues to escape from the tundra as it melts, there is a potential for the whole atmosphere suddenly to catch fire. It is scientifically now possible. Imagine that. Imagine. And I'm not saying this to scare you, because I know you're wise people. I know you know that something momentous is happening, unprecedented, unspeakable, magnificent and terrible beyond words even of Rumi on opium to describe. And then she said, the other possibility is that this massive agony is not the massive agony of death. It's the massive agony of an unprecedented birth. A birth of a new species, a new kind of human being, a fully human, fully divine, embodied divine human being who will have learned through this stupendous tragedy two crucial lessons: the humility of absolute surrender to the One, and the commitment at the most radical level to live in joy of the mind, in joy of the heart, in joy of the body, in joy of gratitude and celebration, so that the great joy can work to create through human beings surrendered humbly in heart, mind, soul, and body, a new civilization that radiates harmony, compassion, artistic genius, scientific discoveries which will make what we know already absolutely trivial and childish, and above all, a unified world in which people experience the ecstasy of divine joy in sacred relationship with all beings, animals included. And I was especially overjoyed when she said that, because, as many of you know, I have a great passion for the great cats. And my joy in life at this moment, the greatest joy I have in my life at this moment, apart from being with people like you, is being with my cat, who has been sent, I know, directly from Kali to play with me and lighten me up and reveal abysses of sweetness and fidelity and tenderness regularly to keep me awake to the truth of reality, as one reality burns to death and another reality makes its fragile, strange experience and appearance. So just take in what I'm saying and relate it to what I began by saying, that I've committed my life, and I encourage everybody I meet, white, black, orange, purple, gay, straight, pansexual, polysexual, banana sellers, lesbian acrobats, I just say one thing: train in joy. And why would I say that, knowing what I know? My friends, the answer is in the following story from the Taittiriya Upanishad, one of the greatest of the Upanishads. Perhaps the greatest in some ways, because it contains, and I quoted it at length in my book, The Hope, it contains a vision of the life of the birth, derived from an experience of divine joy. The story goes like this. There was a very holy, realized man called, a Brahmin priest, called Bhrigu Varuni. And Bhrigu Varuni had a child, a boy that he loved deeply. And that boy was in his teens and his father was in his 80s, and he knew that he would die soon. So he said to his son, I want you to go up to that mountain, and I want you to stay in the hut that I used to stay there when I was learning the secrets of the universe through the grace of God. And I want you to spend a year there, and I want you to say the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate, and at the end of the year I want you to come down and tell me what you know. Because my prayer is that before I die, you will know everything, so I can leave knowing that whatever happens in this insane, mad world that is the dance of God, you will always, somewhere, be safe. At the end of the first year, the boy, who was an athletic, macho boy, came swaggering down the mountain, and the father smiled to himself, and he asked the boy, what did you learn this year? And the boy gave him a very good answer. He said, I've learned that the universe is mind. Everything is created out of consciousness. This is the secret. And the father said, well, it's the beginning. It's the beginning, that's very good. Everything is created out of the divine mind. And everything is a play of the divine mind. The mystery of the mind playing with its million manifestations. Very good. But it isn't the truth. So you go back, my darling, and you work a lot harder, and you get a lot humbler, and you realize that if you're going to find this secret, you're going to have to sweat for it and bleed for it, because it's so amazing that it cannot be given to someone who hasn't emptied himself or herself of any belief that they are anyone or that they know anything, even something as wonderful and marvelous as knowing that the divine consciousness is creating everything. So every day sweat and hunger and pray and long and burn and yearn for the beloved in you to meet the beloved in the universe, so that this secret can be transmitted to you, heart, mind, soul, and body. And the son, who had a heroic temperament and a heroic frame, was rather pissed that he didn't know the secret, but very thrilled to know that his father had given him such clear and fierce instructions, because he loved and trusted his father, and he knew that his father was awake. And his father started to become very sick in that year. And he prayed to Shiva, please give me one last blessing. You have given me everything. You have given me enough money to feed my family. You have given me a place so beautiful to live. You have given me children who love you. You have given me health. Up to this illness, I was so healthy. All these things. And in the end, not only that, you gave me moksha. You gave me liberation. So forgive me if I ask you one more boon. Please, 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 awaken my son. And let me have, as the last grace from you, the chance to see my son's face burning with your truth. And the year came to an end, and the father was taken out and sat in a chair where he could see his son walking down the mountain path. And this time his son wasn't swaggering and macho and full of himself. He was walking calmly, and he was walking with immense grace. And his face was shining with the divine diamond light. And his father wept because he knew that his son knew. And the son came and touched his father's feet, and his father took his face into his hands with tears of joy streaming down his face. And he said to his son, I know you know, and I know that no words can ever express what you now know. But if you could, to delight my heart, Give me some words. Please try. And this is what the sun said. And this is what I would love, if I could, to write in diamond letters on the soul of everyone I have the privilege to meet. The sun said, from the great bliss, all things come. In and by the great bliss, all things are sustained, and to the great bliss, all things return. This is the highest mystical teaching. This is the highest mystical teaching. And the word that he uses in Sanskrit is the word that I put into my name for my password. My name is Andrew, and it comes from the Greek andros, man. And the word for bliss is Ananda. A-N-A-N-D-A. Ananda. And just saying the word is an experience of immense expansion. Ananda. 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 The great gushing forth from the Godhead of the unspeakable, relentless, continuing, ecstatic creativity on multiple levels that we have no idea of, creating universes in realms we have never even begun to imagine, multiple universes before smoking a cigar at breakfast. Ananda! And my password name is Anandru. Because when I made my commitment to joy, I decided I better make it real. So that's how I try. Both interpretations of this stage of Kali's dance are now possible. That's what makes this time so terrifying and so utterly bewildering and amazing. It is absolutely possible that we will continue to be insane and commit suicide and drag most of the animal world with us in a holocaust of greed. And if you don't see that, please see that. Not to become paralyzed by fear, but to become absolutely committed to living in joy, so that whatever happens, you can be a beacon of truth and love and service and kindness, a naughty nurse at the great hospice. And that is the task of the lovers. Whatever God decrees, God has given the duty to the lovers to be dancers of God's joy. Rumi said, the whole world could be choked with thorns, but the lover's heart stays a rose garden. The world of heaven could wind to a halt, but the world of lovers will always go on turning. Wherever you find a lover on a bed of pain, you will find the beloved right by her bedside. So, mount the stallion of love and do not fear the path, however black with obstacles and agonies the path may be. The horse knows the way exactly. So even if Kali decides to fold up our entire universe like a napkin and throw it into the abyss of her eternal furnace of wild bliss, even if that's what she decides, living in joy is the only way to be fully human, fully divine. And even if the first interpretation of Kali's dance comes true, those who choose the path of the lovers, those who choose the path of joy, those who choose to keep dancing for the glory of God, whatever the hell happens, they will be given by God's astounding paradoxical grace. They will be given in the middle of the fire the safety of liberation. That's how God rewards the mad warrior midwives of love. And I know this. If we are to be birthers with the birthing force of evolution, of a new species, and the lineaments of that new species are already here, and what we're undergoing, my friends, is not a transformation, because transformation leaves you a better version of what you've been. What we're going through is a mutation that has been heralded by the great evolutionary mystics through history, the secret great ones who knew that this was always possibly our destiny. And they are at the heart of Shaivism. They are at the heart of Mahayana Buddhism. Christ was one of those ones and showed us in the resurrection the new light matter that our bodies will be made of, could be made of. They have come in the last centuries. Sri Aurobindo is the greatest of all of them. The Plato of evolution. He worked on this tremendous mutation in himself, knowing that it is the potential truth of this staggering dance. If we are to birth this birth, the only way will be through connecting radically and constantly with the Ananda, with from the great bliss all things come, to the great, in the great bliss all things are sustained, and to the great bliss all things return. Because when you connect to the great bliss, you understand beyond reason that that bliss is omniscient and omnipotent and a fountain of incessant miracle, a fountain that can never run dry. And you understand viscerally beyond reason that that great bliss is capable even at 3 seconds to midnight, to reverse everything, transfigure everything, work miracle after miracle after miracle that we cannot, even in our most illumined consciousness, imagine. You know that because you've experienced it in the depths of your heart and mind and body, and you know that because you've experienced it in the thousands of ways that you've been saved from yourself by its miraculous grace. So either way, my friends, whether we are headed for the furnace of annihilation or whether we are headed to experience a mutation into a new species, joy is the middle, beginning, and end of how we should try and live. You might ask me, how can you say to me that we should live in joy in the middle of all this unspeakable pain, cruelty, injustice, and horror, which even the stupidest and most narcissistic of us now know threaten everything? And there is only one answer. Do the practice. Do the practice. Believe in Jesus and Rumi and Ramakrishna and Teresa of Avila and Aurobindo and the great shamans. Believe that what they have discovered is real. And be humble enough to commit yourself at the deepest level, incessantly, in humility and gratitude, whatever you're feeling, whatever is happening, whatever you're suffering, to keep doing the practice. My great teacher in Tibet told me another story which I've never forgotten about practice. He said, when you begin the practice, you're like a person locked in an earthen cell. You're asphyxiated in the ego. All you know is the dank, smelly, dark cell of your own ridiculous understanding of who you think you are. But you've been given in that cell, you're given a little food to keep you alive, but you're also given one thing, you're given a file. A file. And that file is the mantra. So if you're a clever prisoner, you work with that file in the earthen wall of your cell, and you start tunneling with that fire. Every time you say the name of God, another bit of that dank earth that is your enclosing ego is dislodged. And this goes on for a long time, and there are times when you think, when will it come? When will it come? When will I see the sun? When will I see the green, gorgeous earth and the sun again? Believe the ones who have seen the sun. Believe the ones who know that reality is golden. Believe that, because that will sustain you through those days when you've tunnel, you think, a big, big tunnel, and still you haven't got there. And then he said, the saddest thing is that many people give up when they're only a foot away from emerging into a wholly new world. So never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Ever. I have been at the deathbed of two enlightened beings, Trukse Rinpoche and Bede Griffiths. They are not sitting in the lotus position thinking, oh, I'm going to swan through death. You know what they were both doing in their different traditions? They were saying the mantra. Trukse Rinpoche was chanting Om Mani Padme Hum, with the adoration of his whole life, aligning his whole being with the mystery as his time had come to go into the next level of the mystery. And Bede was saying the Jesus prayer, Jesus, Holy Jesus, Mother of God, Jesus, Son of God, have mercy upon me, have mercy upon me. It all comes down to the file in the prison, that is the mantra. And that's why the name of God, saying the name of God, that is the mantra, has been the central teaching of all of the great prophets and mystics of humanity. It was the Prophet, peace be upon him, central teaching. It was Kabir's central teaching. It was the secret teaching of Jesus when he gave the world, Maranatha, Lord come. It is always the great teaching. Stick with the great teaching. Be humble enough. There are other practices that are helpful, but this is the one that you will need to steer your boat across the dark, fiery waves of Kali Yuga. So now, we're going to do that mantra that I gave you. I'm an old veteran of the superficialities of the New Age. So I know that whenever I give the secret of secrets, there are always good-hearted, decent people who think, how interesting. I must put that in my notebook along with all of the other interesting things I've heard from Mr. This and Mr. That, and Swami this and Swami that, and that fat lady whose name I can't remember. Please don't do this. I can't prevent you from making me a happy dancer in your cinema, but I'd love to give you the flame to burn your cinema down so that you see the great film with the eyes of the deranged, gorgeous director that makes it. And that is the mantra. The mother, Aurobindo's consort, at the end of her life, she was a realized being, worked on the transfiguration of the body, and she didn't learn Sanskrit and chant Sanskrit words and write things and dance about and do elaborate manifestations of emptiness. She took this mantra, and as a 90-year-old woman, she tunneled with this mantra into the depths of the matter of her body to work on the transfiguration of the cells of her body, because she knew that was what the birth of a new species required. And if a woman who knows that, all that she knew, all that she lived, who had been Aurobindo's consort, who was one of the greatest human beings that has ever lived on this planet, one of the pioneers of the evolution of the birth of the new species, could be humble and wise enough to use one mantra alone, concentrating totally on the explosive bliss knowledge, bliss power, bliss vibration, bliss truth. In that mantra, why the hell can't you and I be humble enough to trust the ones who know? The great danger on the spiritual path is to become intoxicated by spiritual knowledge. It's almost as great a danger as becoming intoxicated by your amazing experiences, which are amazing only to beginners. There's nothing amazing to anyone who knows about anything, except that everything is amazing. The fact that the flower is blossoming is amazing. The fact that I'm speaking in sentences is amazing. The fact that my glasses are doing this instead of doing this is amazing. The miracle is all around us. It's all amazing. And the experiences are there to get you to the place where you don't need them. You welcome them, you love them, you celebrate them, but you're in the state of awe and wonder and purity and gratitude and joy, in which life itself is the revelation. So, Om Namo Bhagavate. There are many, 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 many meanings of this mantra, and to satisfy your Western intellectual minds, and God knows I know because I am a Western intellectual. I was before I got crazy. And thank God I have it still available, because it enables me to, I hope, make things as clear as possible for you. But the greatest meaning is the one I am going to give you. And this was the meaning that the mother worked on. Om Namo Bhagavate. The greatest meaning of it is, remember the Taittiriya Upanishad. I salute the supreme joy. I salute the supreme joy. The great bliss that's creating everything, into which everything returns. I go straight with my adoration to the core of the core of the core of the core of the blazing Godhead, and I salute that. And there is another meaning which is related. And since I know that you're listening to my every word, and it's been imprinted forever in fire and diamond on your heart, I won't insult you by repeating something I said yesterday, which is another great clue. And that is that before you say the mantra, have the right view. You're not just saying I salute the supreme joy. My darlings, you are a hologram of that supreme joy. So as you say, I salute the supreme joy, you are also saying, I salute the supreme joy. You're saying to the self that you are going to become through the mantra, the embodied, divine, engoldened, enlightened, awake, gloriously free, gloriously loving, gloriously joyful, brave, wild, heroic self that you're going to become through the grace of the supreme joy. You're saying to that self that is in you like a seed waiting to be watered by the golden water of the mantra, you're saying to that, I salute you, my friend, myself, the being that I really am and will become through the grace of the vibration of the great bliss that can do miracle after miracle after miracle. That is the great mantra. And when you do it like that, everything goes much more smoothly, because that shows the level of your surrendered mad trust. Om Namo Bhagavate. So everything I've said for the last hour you can put in your notebook if you want, or you can take it on trust from someone you know is sincere, and you know who loves you, and you know is not miserable, and you can work with it. And one day, one amazing day, which I pray and hope comes for everyone, one day you will know. And on that day, you will laugh like a child in a garden.